Hey Salman, how you doing?
Good, Michael. How are you?
Good. I got the meeting minutes updated.
Ah, cool. Thanks. I hadn't had a chance to look at them yet. I will do that. Yeah. How was the summit?
It was good. It was good. I had some observations. I shared them with with Aaron who runs it, but I guess now next year it's going to be run by the Linux Foundation.
Oh,
So I need to share that with them. That I felt, there was a lot of good use cases and good conversation and all that, but not the wrong people, but yeah, not the wrong people, but there was a significant portion of population that was missing from the meeting, and that was from the
uh,
the consumers who will actually like use this. It felt very much, the choir was there, but the congregation was not. So
all right.
yeah,
Well,
I
good
think that and I
observation.
think that may speak to why the adoption rate is not where it should be. Right. Aside
Yeah,
from
yeah,
healthcare is all over it. Like,
sure, sure. But any other regulated body needs a regulator to say it's okay, but they need a problem first, right? They have to have fundamental, like, why do I need confidential anything? Right?
right.
What's forcing me to protect this information while it's being used? And I think you're right. I think it's got to pinpoint those killer use cases.
Right.
Um, and I think, you brought up one that I think is important. Like PCI is one that's going to be a battle, I think, but it's a good battle to have. I think it really is. Scope reduction, all the things that you and I know are really important to the constituents,
Yeah.
which are really the banks, the intermediaries, and
Got
those
an
that
update on that.
basically got to pay money to get things compliant.
Right.
Um, so, and I got
Let's-
another one, which is cross-border payments, which I look at
Oh
that
yeah.
because it's a mess, right? It's
Yeah.
no one has figured out messaging,
Well,
compliance, and settlement all in one way where it's
yeah.
universal, right? And
Yeah.
maybe we need something like confidential to like bind it in a new architecture where maybe I can't run this thing confidentially in Africa, but I can run it in Saudi Arabia or whatever on behalf instead of an enclave or whatever. Those types of things were part of a conversation I was having with a couple of friends from the Fed. And they're like, we like those ideas as long as we have attestations and
Right.
evidence and all those things, right?
Yeah. So there was an update around Swift. Are you familiar with Swift?
Oh, very much so.
Okay, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. So I used to do Swift assessments because it's weird in their framework they call out that PCI QSAs can do their assessments. I don't know why, but yeah, that's in the
If
Swift
I know the
framework.
language, I guess, and you know what you're
Right,
looking
one of
for,
the one
right?
of the acceptable assessors to do Swift is a PCI QSA. So I used to do them because they do adopt a lot of similar, a lot of the frameworks are very similar, right? They just restate the same shit.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but there was an update. I can't remember if it was at the conference or I read it, so I've got to go dig it out. Where Swift was looking at adopting confidential computing for to secure the messaging that goes back and forth, right? Because that's a big issue within Swift, right? The security of those messages being sent in between the banks.
Hmm.
So I'll see if I can dig that out. But yeah, that would be a potential use case there that could easily get adopted. The what I kept saying at the meeting for people I talked to is that I've come to the conclusion, and I'm pretty convinced of it now, that businesses only do things for one of two reasons: either to make money or to remove the blocker that is preventing them from making money. And the blocker that's preventing them from making money are the regulatory and statutory requirements. And since
Right.
there's not any specifically just yet for confidential computing, although some of them are alluding to it and they're getting a little bit more pedantic about the use, none of them mandate the use of this like they do with HSMs and other technology stacks. Until that happens, that's going to be a part of the conversation that we're missing. But hopefully that's what
Yeah.
this can help influence.
Yeah, I think so.
Hey,
Hey,
Jen.
Hey guys, how are you?
Great. How are
good,
you
good.
doing?
Good. Still recovering.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was your travels? Okay.
No, the travel is the thing I'm recovering from.
Yeah.
I had a red eye back, and it was also again delayed, and then we had three thunderstorms on the flight. It
Hmm.
was I slept
Whoa.
half an hour, I think.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It
Wow.
was
That's
a very, very. I didn't have such a bumpy ride in a while.
mm.
Yeah, but
All right.
it's good. I'm back.
Good.
How are
Good.
you guys?
Good. We were just getting caught up.
Good.
Things are well. Things are well. Sorry I wasn't able to be
Good.
there. I just didn't get the cutoff for approval, so it's all good. I'll come next time for sure.
Yeah.
I was just saying to him is that the Linux Foundation is set to run it next year.
Yes, in full. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be
Good.
interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well,
Yeah.
I know Ab said he won't be able to make it today, so it's probably just the three of us to start. Maybe somebody
Okay.
will surprise us. I have a pretty light agenda for today. It's mainly sort of a recap of last week. Um, Michael, you were there, and Jens, you were
Yep.
there, and I dialed into the governing board meeting. I think it was that Monday as
Yeah.
well. So there's a couple things to update and just synergize on, and just before you joined, Michael and I were diving into some use cases, and I've got a small world, but I've got a couple of really strong friends over at, well, they're all everywhere, but the Fed and ECB right now, their fraud division, and just trying to find ways to combat the prevalence of these basically zero security transactions that are trying to come in across borders and cross-border payments, and Swift isn't necessarily the full answer at the moment. So looking at like creatively some ideas around how do we go and sort of tackle that. I know you've talked about it, I think, in the past as well, sort of that as a goal for
Joe
confidential.
Rogan is a
Sorry, go ahead.
Nope. Sorry. Something played in the web browser.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
But before we get too far, I guess we should do our obligatory antitrust policy notice. If you haven't read it before, read it. And actually, I'm about ready to go back and read the policy again, just to make sure if we're going to do any collaboration around use cases, for example, what are the lines we got to be careful of, IP and such. But as always, there we go. And of course, we are a community dedicated to conventional computing, and we obviously focus on regulatory and standards, but we want to make sure we welcome more and more people. I think that was one of the takeaways from last week for me, is we definitely need some more hands, inside of the CCC, and in particular this group, particularly for things outside of payments and cloud. I think you're right, Michael. We need more representation of the constituents, like governments and others that write the regulations, or those that are going to be finding ways to get past the regulations to make money. So like I said, I was only like two sort of things on the agenda for me. One of them is the governing board sort of recap. I'd love to hear your guys' insights on the summit. We got a little bit of it before we started here. And then I do want to say card and cross-border payments as just a general talk. It might take more than 10 minutes, but I think that one, there's always a high impact. Yes, healthcare is out there, and I don't know where we're going to land with something like High Tech Act and other things here in the States, but credit cards and banks sending money around the world, that's pretty universal, and it's going to be everywhere. And I think there's some gaps in there that CC could help with. That's sort of it. Any other insights or thoughts or topics we want to tackle?
No, maybe from my side, just a minor topic. Um, it hasn't been publicly released yet. I have a meeting tomorrow with them. It was just like normal formatting things. The government is not the fastest. Right? So it was
No.
very small formatting things, even, oh, how should we do this abbreviation and what should we write underneath, whatever. Very, very tiny details. But we are about to publish, and tomorrow I should know if it's happening tomorrow or Wednesday, and then I will let you guys know. And if you have any questions on this topic, please feel free to ask anytime.
Sounds great.
There will be use cases for this. So there are a few deployments with reference implementations in government environments that will come up that will be public. And then, then there will also be some that will be non-public. But if you have any questions, then please feel free to reach out. And if you have any comments on this, that will be even better.
Yeah, I have a couple coming your way.
Amazing. Send them to me. We would be
Yeah,
so happy about them. And
yeah,
yeah, no, absolutely fantastic.
Awesome.
yeah. It's got to get
Good.
through today, but so expect those either in the day today or tomorrow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Love it. And
Fantastic.
that's the only thing on my side.
Very good. Yeah, I think the minutes, you were able to post those up yesterday, Michael. So I guess we can officially ask for approval of those. With the three of us, I think quorum is easy. If anybody objects, let me know.
Nope.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's dive into the. Why isn't that going forward? There we go. So 2 out of 3 of us were in the GB last week. Pretty standard stuff. This is what I presented in my section. The general GB session was about 2 hours long, I think, maybe a little bit longer. And everybody was sort of represented from the different groups, and also the GB sort of set some goals for the next year, it felt like. But in general, everything that's on this slide is what I presented, and I'd love to just sort of share any observations from other parts of the meeting, Jens, that you saw that's helpful. But in general, I think continue to work on this. We're 6 months in on this group, 5, almost 6 now, and I think we're at a point now where it's time to have the TAC take over the CACAF. We're looking at it from a commercialization and sort of how do we integrate this into regulators. And I think we need to go back with the TAC and have them officially bless it, or find any major gaps for it. So I didn't get an answer from Michael as to how do we want to formally do that, but I'll figure that out.
Mike
Mike
Purcell.
B. Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
thank you.
figured.
I was like, wait a minute, I forgot. There's a Mike in the room. And then the other part from a focus standpoint, like why are we doing this and where are we focusing this? We've had some good traction with BSI. We've definitely
Mhm.
had some really good signals from SOCOM. I sent them the caffeine. He's like, can I share those with everybody I know inside of SOCOM? I'm like, sure. Everybody that's relevant, please. So we'll get some outcomes from that, but it'll probably be a meeting or two in Fort Meade or somewhere in the DC or similar locations, I guess is the best way to see it, around how could CC be used for supporting SOCOM use cases. So that's the part that's interesting, is these military industrial type opportunities. They usually are coming at it from a 20-year ago mentality. Like cloud is even still new for them in some cases, just because of the requirements they have, the security and the isolations. So working with teams like SOCOM, who are usually very nimble, they want to try to be ahead of the game. It's the SEALs, it's all the people working in theater together. So I think it's going to be a very good one. But it's really going to be, I think, to your point earlier, Michael, that the PCI council and PCI type use cases are going to be really, really important, just like
Mhm.
cross-border payments that we were talking about as well. I think if we go and we follow the money, we'll find the most activity and the most
Yeah.
opportunity, right? There's payments alone, right? It's actually really mature because of PCI has been pushing for what, 20 years now, give or take. This sort of like
Yeah.
modernization of the infrastructure and how do you measure it, and certifications and all those great things. But I think there's still some gaps and some low-hanging fruit out there. And similar with cross-border payments, like it's a mess. I mean, depending on what kind of bank you are, you probably have Swift, but if you're Europe, you have IBAN and SEPA and all these things, specifically the euros. But if you're in the US, you get FedWire and others, and these things don't cross each other, they don't work with each
Right.
other. And banks quite often end up creating a bit of a mess. And then you get these just fraudsters out there that have a quote unquote private bank, who are just trying to get somebody to take a Swift message from them that turns into some kind of unusable deposit or instrument or things on the balance sheet that mess things up. And it happens, I mean, a lot. I just know it because I used to be in that world for a minute. And Fed, Bank of England, ECB, and other sort of institutional banks, they have some solutions, but they're not universal solutions. And this is where I think confidential compute with some kind of standard, messaging compliance and settlement approach would be very helpful. The central bank digital currency is not the answer. It's actually just more centralization around a bank versus
Right.
how do we cross these wires without blowing up the building. So that's sort of the high level I presented to the team, to the board, and this is one of the ones I want to dive into is sort of these two use cases: card payments and cross-border payments. Again, I think where the money is where we'll get the most opportunity, because that's just, they have more challenges, whether we're trying to help from a fraud perspective, a risk perspective, or a compliance perspective. They all start with what's the pain. So yeah, I'll pause there. Any other insights or questions from the GB last week?
No, I totally agree with everything you just said. I think it's the right way. Um, from the GB, we will put a bit of a focus in, and that will be said officially in the next couple of days. But we voted in that meeting, and you were in there, Solomon, I think until the end, right? That two very, very important topics in the next year should be agentic AI and data sovereignty. I think data sovereignty is also a topic where this is for regulators also super interesting to talk about. Just that one thing, I think your finance instinct here is absolutely right. But Michael can talk more about this. Just one thing to SOCOM, but because the call is recorded, I'm happy to discuss it offline. There's one thing that is happening shortly where I'm 100% sure it will accelerate anything with SOCOM. So 100%. Good. So let me know if you talk to them. When you talk to them, I think I can contribute quite something.
I would like to actually have a meeting goal sometime probably in August. I mean, it's getting time for holidays and stuff soon, but it's probably going to be sometime in August with them, and probably a remote call. Yeah. And I'd like to have as many folks from our side as there as possible. I'd love for you to be there.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know. We have one development that will play into that very, very nicely.
Cool. Yeah, and you hit on something that's really important. It's actually what Nelly pays me money to go solve, which is data sovereignty. I've been doing that since the 90s. That's why when I talk about, like, I've been around PCI, I've been around like the solutions to secure PCI. I've never been a QSA, Michael. So I know we probably have complementary insights that are definitely unique. But the journey has been, like, at the end of the day, if you don't have command and control of the thing that protects your data, it doesn't matter. Right. You have no sovereignty. You have no control.
Yeah.
So
it's not your data at some point, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Pushing back on that. If I give you the data and I give you the keys, is it really my data anymore?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
But so a quick update. I had a call on Friday with a QSAC named Shellman. They're kind of big in the PCI space, along with like Coalfire and Verizon, what have you. And so they're interested in partnering on this paper to get it published out. Coalfire they just went away. I don't know what's going on with them, but now I'm working internally within Chase to get approvals to publish out, because they're not our QSAC. I have to be sensitive to the fact that they're not our QSAC, but yet I wanted to use them. But hopefully I can get that route cleared here within the next couple of weeks. And like I said, most of the paper's already written. I'm going to share it across to them. I think I already shared it with the group, but if not, let me know. I will upload it to our folder. I think I already did, actually. I think it's already there.
I think you did.
Yeah. But that's what I'm going to share across to Shellman and get their feedback, and then we'll update it accordingly. Hopefully we can get this published out within the next 60 days. And then just because I saw it on the slide deck, the slide clarification, right? So the way and the reason why I'm doing this is first, a CUSAC can publish an opinion piece, a blog, or whatever, right, around why they think something is X. Then they submit it to the council as a RCF. I'm sorry, RFC. I keep saying that backwards. RFC for guidance that the council then takes in and looks at and adds comments to. And if as you go back and forth, hopefully eventually you get to a point where they agree that this can be published guidance, and then they publish the guidance. Like, it won't actually go into the data security standards, but it'll be guidance on how you can meet certain requirements or how you can do certain things that'll impact your assessment against those data security standards. They don't put it, well, I should say this. They may talk about it from a high level tech standard perspective, right? So they'll say like NIST 800-53 algorithms found in NIST 853, or they'll talk about HSM being a means with which to secure cryptographic material, but they won't specifically say like, this is what you do here to do this, right?
Got it.
That's the plan there with them. And any conversations with the Fed or well, let me put it this way: I can't talk directly to the Fed or any other regulatory bodies like that. Without prior clearance from JPM. But definitely looking to stay engaged in that conversation, maybe a little bit in the background to help with some of that.
Yeah, and that's the part. That's why I'm gonna go back and look at the antitrust stuff for
Right.
Linux Foundation too. Make sure there's nothing I'm missing. From a cloud provider perspective, I had to be careful too, right? I supply infrastructure a lot of different places, but at the same time, I'm trying to create a opportunity for a conversation. Like, how do we make it ubiquitous beyond the infrastructure and the architectures? And
Right.
all the banks are going to participate in this and things if this is a thing that moves forward. So it's like we got to make sure that how do we drive this the right way and make it more of a round table so it doesn't feel like we're doing a one-on-one in the wrong way. Cool. Yeah, as far as like anything else on the agenda for me, it was just those sort of big two, the PCI and the cross-border payments. I think it's early days on the cross-border payments, but I think a document, I'll probably write that up in the next 2 weeks. I should have enough info by then. That just sort of outlines the goal of, what is it we're trying to seek here. There are some existing standards, of course, across all of these. ISO 20022, the messaging format, is just one of the three pieces we have to figure out. We still need, compliance and settlement, and both of those things are very sensitive information, right? Messaging, all three of them are, but those other two, like they all come from different sources. They get stored in different destinations, and the last one, the settlement one, is usually right next to the core or in the core of the bank, whatever bank that is. So it's just going through. I'm going to put a document together to start that sort of dialogue. I'll add you both as editors or anybody in really the CCC that wants to look. But I want to start with something at least as a high level. Here's the problem holistically across the world. Here's the stakeholders, and that includes the central banks, the banks, and all of its constituents. And then what's the technical problems and solutions for that. I think confidential compute can be used in such a way, and this is something I'd be very intrigued from an innovation standpoint. Can it be used in such a way where I can do cross borders, or I also can still do what they call, what's the name of that relationship? Correspondent. I could be a correspondent for somebody technically, right? They don't have the infrastructure, but they can send me an appropriately formatted or protected payload, and I can run that in a confidential way that then lets it settle, lets it whatever it needs to do at the end, because they don't necessarily have a core or whatever it is. There'll be things like that that'll come to it. It'll be interesting to see, like, is this just a solution looking for a problem, or does confidential really solve a fundamental problem of trust and attestation in these cross-border payments? Cool. I got nothing else for this week. It's be a short week. I know that Ab was out. He's on vacation this week. So
Yeah.
anything else?
No, I just think I would. I sorry, I hate it when I say no and then I start on something positive. So silly. Uh, one of the things that for next year's, as you know, we plan or any other CCC events, I know this is a takeaway for me. I want to spend some time planning that our participation in that
Yeah.
because I think there were a couple of presentations that touched on regulatory conversations. And although this was a opaque led event, so the CCC presence wasn't quite as pronounced, right? As maybe one run by the consortium will be. I think we should definitely look to have, I don't know, booth might be too much or something, but some sort of representation there that talks about what we're doing and how we, how we can help lead on that. So, anyways, yeah.
How many attendees were there? I didn't hear a count.
Oh,
200 maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
It wasn't horrible. I mean, it was well attended. I think, like I said at the beginning of the call, there was just a whole segment of people missing, which is the people that are actually going to consume this, right? The people that are. There was a lot of no offense, Vince, there was a lot of vendors there, a lot of right, and I just felt like you're preaching to the choir, like. Everybody here is already convinced about confidential computing.
Yeah.
They don't need, these are not the people that you wanted to talk to. You want to talk to the people like myself, and I think there were a few other, customers, quote unquote, there. You want to talk to us and really in my world, the SaaS vendors, like having the SaaS vendors there, the big SaaS vendors have some representation there would have been great too, because as I was sharing with Opaque and Juna, that I don't, as a customer, I don't want to have to marry the relationship between you and Snowflake or you and Databricks or you. I don't want to be that broker. I want to have a simple line item that says this is what I'm paying for and this is what I'm getting, similar to how AWS and various other, and actually the same way that the SaaS vendors slipstream in their third party vendors that they use, right? That are underneath their umbrella, but I don't know about it. I just pay a bill for the service I'm using, right? That would be a much more efficient and I think a much more effective model for confidential computer adoption in the SaaS space. But yeah, so having them there, I think would help.
That's a good point.
I was very happy that Anthropic was there and Apple.
Yeah, I thought what interesting takeaway from them that I had from Anthropic, Meta's presentation, Apple's presentation, I thought was really good on confidential Siri. Right, what I found interesting, and in ServiceNow, her speech was that they're all using confidential computing on the back end to secure their models, secure their MCP servers, secure their different AI infrastructure. And I thought that was really interesting that they acknowledge the fact that they need this as a way to segment and isolate their data from the cloud service providers who are providing them the compute. But I had a couple of conversations with one with ServiceNow, one with Anthropic. Have you ever thought about using the attestation document from those instances to provide assurance to your customers of where their data is running, and then use that as part of the key release for their data as it's being fed through your model. So that way I know that my data is going through the appropriate Anthropic model that I wanted it to, and yada, 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 right? The various ways that the attestation document, which I still think is one of the things that's not talked about enough in confidential computing. So they thought that was kind of interesting. I have a couple of follow-ups with them to talk about it, but yeah, I thought that was neat that they're all in on it.
Yeah. I can say that like ISVs and SaaS vendors, when they come to Google, at least, I've seen this firsthand. This is one of the conversations we have, which is at what point do you release the customer's data into an environment that is in confidential or is being using confidential for
Right.
attestation reasons. So there's a subset. I wouldn't say all of them are doing this, but there's a subset that have understood that, and then there's this other part which is less about the a SaaS solution bringing in data or AI even solution bringing in data with their models. It's more the ISV that used to work through an MSP model or directly with the customer, where it's a firewall, it's an X, Y, or Z, and the policies, keys, and other things that might be very sensitive should not be running in a VM, but they still need to run in the infrastructure. So thus confidential compute with attestations helps the end-to-end customer, the person that's paying, the firewall company X amount of money to go and do this thing. They can have assurance that their key is unlocking their rules in their VM that's doing their firewall workloads. So it's interesting because you see it like there's an AI lens, there's a SaaS lens, there's this ISV lens where they're coming in and they're still needing some of the same things. Customers want some level of sovereignty over their data and the controls that might go with it, but they don't necessarily want to or should own the infrastructure. And the ISV doesn't want the liability, or the SaaS or whoever doesn't want the liability being like, I have to make sure your data is protected. We'll count on the cloud provider to do that, but we have to do it in a way that's confidential. So it's like this like basket being weaved. It's slightly different with each one of these combination, but there's some core fundamental components. And I think you're right, Michael. I don't think that the attestation is talked about and thought about enough about how it proves that that sandwich truly is what you said it wanted to be.
Right.
All the pieces
Right.
together come to be a workload or a service
Right.
at the end.
I had one other feedback for the runners of the meeting this year, and that was do not invite the PQC folks to talk at the end of the presentation. I don't know if you saw that, but I think
No.
so. One of the last presentations that at least this was my takeaway from it, right? And she did a great job. She was very factual, right, on point. Nothing she said, was just way out there. But the summary of her presentation was, in my mind, yeah, whatever you're doing doesn't matter in a few years. You have to buy all new hardware. This is all kind of pointless. Like PQC is coming in, it's just going to wreck your space.
This is
like,
so wrong.
Why would you have that person at the end give his presentation? Like, she was just
Who
like,
was this? Who was this?
I have to go back and look up the schedule but she was the one that was talking about PQC. Give me a second.
Was it Brittany Kaiser? No.
I'm horrible with names. I promise you. Like I'm so bad with names. I just remember she was wearing a mask when she was presenting.
Okay.
And
no, then it was not her. But I kind of disagree with that statement. I mean, it's wrong. So, except the actual chip on Intel and AMD, which will be the key that will be switched to PQC at some point.
Well, that's what she's saying. Sorry if I mischaracterized, but that's what she's saying is that the current chipsets as they are configured are not PQC ready. And so they're going to have you're going to have to buy new hardware once PQC breaks out because everything that you deployed at that point will be cracked.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, what we did to mitigate that was everything after that key in our environment is fully post-quantum safe already now.
Nice.
But we just need Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA to do that job, and then it's fine. But maybe there's even, I don't know. That's a bad thing at the end of the day. Yeah, I agree.
I thought it was. Why are you giving this presentation now? Either do it at the start when everybody's off on the keynotes, and so nobody's going to attend it, or don't. It was. I thought it was kind of funny.
That is funny, actually. Yeah, it is.
I'm trying to find the actual listing of. Maybe this is it. Nope, that's not it. Okay, I'll have to go find it. The listing of events,
Yeah, don't worry, don't worry.
or not
I can have a
events,
look at
but
this one.
sessions, um, presentations. Here we go. Schedule. It's at the end of day 2. Yeah, Q Day, survival guide, what the post-quantum cryptography transition means for confidential computing. Well, no, that was Arthur Savage. That wasn't it. Huh. Maybe she gave it in place of it? Yeah, because I could have swore that's what it was. But yeah, I think it was. So wasn't Arthur Savage, but
Oh well,
yeah. Anyways, that's
that's fine.
Arthur. That is Arthur Savage. Okay, apologies. I thought that was a female. My apologies. All right. So Arthur Savage. That's who gave the presentation.
He lived up to his name.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was it was a brutal takedown of you go watch the video. Maybe I have it wrong,
I
right?
will.
Maybe
No, I will
I
watch the
have it
video.
wrong, but I was like, wow. Thanks for being a buzzkill.
That's good.
Boom.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
I'll get the mini minutes out as soon as the video is posted.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Have a great day,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Good
Thanks,
week.
gents.
Mhm.
Bye.
Bye.